Welcome to the Last in Line podcast, where we discuss faith, hope, and truth in the lives of amazing servant leaders. You are in the right place if you crave purpose and if you hunger for a life of significance. This podcast applies biblical truth to our daily lives, and we pray that you walk away encouraged and inspired. This is the Last in Line podcast.
So it'd be nice to know who exactly are the people listening to my podcast, this particular podcast. It'd be nice to engage with those who listen on a regular basis. I've connected with a couple of you, and a couple of you who I consider friends of mine, but it'd be nice if I knew exactly the demographic, because some of the topics I choose may not necessarily be relevant because of a particular season of life that you are or may not be in. And where I am, hopefully stuff lands with you and is relevant. But in this case, I'm wondering if I've got guys maybe like me that are maybe further along in the parenting journey, and maybe this won't prevent us from some mistakes. Maybe this won't actually fix the problems that we've had in the past, or maybe some things we regret or wish we would have done. But maybe this will help either when your kids have kids and they're a dad, or maybe you're young enough to not be done having kids. And if that's the case, or maybe your kids are younger in the preteen age group, then this would definitely apply. So I guess I would sit myself down if I was going to be a new parent and have some things to say to myself. I would definitely have some do-overs. So I'm going to call this dad do-overs. And we're, approaching, in a few weeks, we're approaching Father's Day. And maybe that's why this was on my heart. I don't know. My dad's been gone for, 10 years, I guess. And, doesn't feel like that long sometimes, and sometimes it feels like an eternity. But I go through memory lane just like y'all do if you've lost anybody, and I start to think, what he did right, what I've taken from him, what I've done different, what maybe I wish he would have done different. And I try to look at myself early in my dad life and parenting life, and me in fatherhood when my kids were 10 or younger. My oldest two, I did things way different than I did with my younger two. There was a 5-year gap between number 2 and number 3. And so, of course, we learn, right? And we move forward, or we should be anyway. But I've got 5 tips for sidestepping the should show. I get into this trap, and it turns into really a spiral staircase going downward. When I get into this, I should have done this, I should have done this, and it lingers into the realm of regret. And I don't think that I know regret's not of God, guilt's not of God. I've got to learn to forgive myself if I expect God to forgive anything where I fell short, or none of it was intentional, of course. And I think I've been a pretty good dad all in all, but I've told you before, I am harder on myself than anyone else will be, really to a fault. And it stems probably from some insecurities I still have just as a person about myself occasionally. But it goes back to, I wish I could have been perfect, and nobody is. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to be perfect until you get into a point of starting to expect it, and then you're just disappointed. That's a whole other conversation, I'm sure. But I want to help you avoid a should show in your life, shoulding all over yourself, as it were. So let's sidestep that. Hopefully this will help you sidestep a few of these landmines of the should show as a dad. And maybe you're right in the middle of it. Maybe your kids are young. Maybe they're just starting out in athletics, and maybe you're coaching a team, or maybe you're trying to teach them different experiences and show them how to be a man, and young men having to learn from us as dads. And maybe you're right in the middle of that. You're literally on the battlefield of that, front row seat to that. I'm a little later in the game. My youngest is 17, and it's a daughter. My other three boys, are 19, 24, and 26, almost 24, I guess. And, you know, it's, I would have done a lot of things differently. I really would have. So maybe some of these things, these 5 tips I have of things I would have done different, will help you sidestep a few of these landmines of shoulda, coulda, woulda, and some of the regrets maybe that you might have, um, and maybe some regrets that I have that I did or didn't do. Now, for the record, I'm not trying to play this, violin for you that I feel like I did so many things wrong and I can't get back time and I can't turn back time and I can't grab a hold of those missed opportunity. I'm not playing that violin. I think I did a lot of things right. I was around all the time, still am. So that's one thing I think I really hit it out of the park. I hope I showed them how to love their mother the right way, how to love a wife. Hopefully, I showed them what an engaged, involved, attentive, present dad does. Hopefully, I've been an example of strength and protection and safety. Haven't always said the right thing or the perfect thing for sure, far from it. But hopefully, they know that I've been always truthful. I've never betrayed them. I always have their back. I don't judge who they are as people. I will always be there no matter how catastrophic their mistakes are. I will address them. I will discipline. I will speak truth in love, but I also am their biggest fan, my wife and I both. And so that's what I want to set this record straight here before I start in this, right? This is not just a complete beat myself up quest. So hopefully that's for you too, though. I mean, if your kids are maybe in that high school age, you're still a parent. This still applies to you. Different seasons, different approaches and tactics and steps for parenting when they get older, but still, you're becoming that point of wisdom, and maybe they start listening actually and start realizing that you do know what you're talking about after all these years. And that's kind of where I think we're getting. But if you're not there, if you're still early on, this will land and this will help you. I feel like, if you're a dad that is loving unconditionally, that you're showing affection to them verbally and physically, you're always present mentally and physically, like you're engaged and you're not just in the room as another fixture of furniture that just sits there like a bump on a log, but you're actually present and accounted for and attentive and have input. Sometimes I have too much input. I guess that's one fault of mine, but at least I'm there. At least they know that I'm not just this, apathetic, deaf mute. And lead spiritually, lead professionally, always provided. God's grace has been good. When I didn't deserve it, He always met our needs. He always came up with the resources that we needed. He always provided the job that I needed when I went through some layoffs. He always was allowing my wife to be the brains kind of behind the financial operation and me to actually go out and connect the dots and bring home the check a lot of times. And now recently, as they get older, that's the good thing is your wife goes back to work. She starts really significantly helping the cause financially. And that's a whole other conversation to tell you about what my wife does. Like she's miraculous and really deserves all the credit. She's the superhero when it comes to just thinking of everything, accomplishing everything she sets her mind to. But hopefully you have led in these ways as well for the most part. Hopefully you're not beating yourself up so much of the things you didn't do, like I tend to slip into, but hopefully you're not doing that and overshadowing some of the things that you did do right, the wins that you did have, because I bet if we made a list, the wins outweigh the losses and the successes outweigh the failures in your life and probably in my life too. So let's get into this 5 steps, 5 tips for sidestepping the should show that might come and rain on your parade occasionally, or knock on your door at the very least, and you just tell it to go away, right? Because the enemy, in addition to wanting to kill, steal, and destroy your wife and your spiritual strength and you and your morals and values as a man, he wants to destroy your nuclear family, your family unit. He wants to destroy the relationship you have with your children. But God called us to be dads. He called us to lead. Says, blessed are those who with, I'm going to butcher this paraphrase, but blessed is the man with many children, and blessed is he whose quivers are full of them. And, blessed is the man who has a big family and children and pours into them and changes generations beyond them. So, how can we avoid shooting yourself? Well, here's what I wish I should have done more of. What I should have done more of, and what there's still time left for me to do. So it's not a lost cause completely, but I'm here to kind of save you a little bit of time, save you some regret and heartache, and maybe some shooting in your pants. Okay. So first thing I wish we would have done, and I don't have a ton of scripture tonight. It's a little odd. I butchered the one that I tried to give you about the arrows in the quiver and all that, and the metaphor of children. I butchered that completely. But, train a child up in the way you should go, and when they're old, they will not depart from it. There you go. I rattled that one off like right off the top of the dome. Can't give you the chapter and verse, but it is what it is. But there's plenty of parenting, father, children verses in the Bible. There's plenty of verses about stewardship, of course, and being faithful with what God's given us to manage. And kids really are one of those things. It's not just dollars and cents and physical material possessions. It's relationships as well. And so I wish, how about this? So here's what I should have done, or I wish I would have done. Wish I would have spent more time with them one-on-one in those, just me and them by ourselves connecting, doing things they love, doing things that maybe we have in common, enjoying just some dad-son, dad-daughter alone time. Now, I had that a little bit with some of the sons that I helped coach their teams, or I led, I was the head coach or whatever, baseball teams, right? We did a lot of sports. We did mostly baseball, and I coached a lot. And so my second son and my third son, I coached their team. I was at my oldest son's, all of his stuff, but they kind of had coaches established when we moved to town from out of town, and I didn't really step on those toes and just kind of let the things happen. And he was on teams of other coaches. But the middle two sons, it was a lot of car rides, me and them, a lot of one-on-one time. Now, I didn't do those perfectly, because what I should have done is, and you might want to get the diapers and the wipes out, because I'm going to should a lot in this conversation. But what I should have done was just let them talk, get their take on the experience, the game, their performance, and leave it alone. I think I overcoached. I think I overanalyzed. I think I had too much input, over communicated. Just as a coach, I just went into coach mode, coach speak, and really should have taken that hat off in the car on the ride home and gotten into dad mode and just listen. It's hard to draw that line. If you've ever been in that role or wore those shoes, wore that hat, man, that's hard to do, especially after you come off that adrenaline. You're either high or low based on wins and losses. And then, the car ride is the way to unwind, and it's not the best way. So got in some of those conversations. Some of them were good. Some of them were more just constructive criticism, which is not what they need, not what they want. And we're not called to do, we're called to be the dad in that moment. So that's what I should have done. In those one-on-one times, I wish I would have done more one-on-one away from the sport that I was the actual coach in, and been more of a dad, getting a burger or ice cream or coffee, or go and just sit on a park bench somewhere and get an idea, crawl inside their skin, get inside their mind, let them verbalize things. I think I have a good relationship with my kids, but I think personally, and maybe it's just because I'm an over communicator, oversharer, I'm more of a words of affirmation guy. Maybe I am overblown this whole thing, and think I should have done more than I did. Where in their mind, maybe if I asked them, they would say, we did plenty. Kids that are growing up when they're between 5 and 15 really aren't big on conversation. Like that dialogue's very limited. So maybe it is what it is. But I would have spent more one-on-one time, I guess, would be the first thing I should have done. In my opinion, these are all my things. I don't know that they would all co-sign on this. I don't know that my wife would co-sign. In fact, we've talked about it, and she's always like, "Dude, you're way too hard on yourself. You're way too you're not to blame for anything, and you're not the guy that gets all the credit for everything. Like you're overanalyzing." So I get it. So, but number two, I think I should have gotten us more out of our comfort zone. Maybe as a family, me and my kids, my wife and my kids and I, maybe we were all just laser focused, locked in on sports and, like I said, baseball. And so we really had tunnel vision on the activities that we did as families. We were always at the baseball field, having three boys. My poor daughter got drugged to the field a lot. And then she gets in volleyball around 10 or 12. And 6 or 7 years later, 8 years later, we're going to volleyball gyms all the time. So I guess I should have found ways in those off seasons to incorporate other things. But as well as I do, when you're in competitive sports, travel ball, it's year round. Or if it's not in season, you're training for the next season to be better. So I wish we would have done more camping, more fishing, more. And it's hard with four young kids. It's hard to take everybody fishing every weekend. Like could be a circus. That's a job. But looking back on it, I wish we'd have just sucked it up, bit the bullet, and got outside our comfort zone in those areas and just taking some risks, going outside the box, colored outside the lines a little bit. Don't be so rigid and structured on we got to do this. This is our sport. This is our activity. This is who we are as a family. We could have maybe branched out a little bit. That's number two. I would have done that different. So maybe you could avoid getting in this situation where you're like, I should have done this. So don't should yourself based on what I am shoulding myself with. So don't pile on to the shooting bandwagon. Number three, this is a big one. Let them fail often. That's hard. And do it over again. I don't know that I'd do any better. Stop fixing all their problems. Like they forget their homework. Guess what? You get a 0 that day. Mom's not going to bring it to you. Between my wife and I had a job. She stayed home. My job was pretty flexible. So we were at a situation where if my kids forgot their cleats for a game that night and they're in high school, we could run those up there, before the game or whatever. And it's just saying it out loud now makes me think, wow, they really could have gotten super soft, super entitled, super dependent. And maybe they are more than they should be because of those things that we did and ways we always swooped in and came to the rescue. I would say don't come to the rescue as much as you think you should. They will not die. They can fail and live to tell about it. They can survive some missteps, especially if it's based on their carelessness or laziness or just lack of even ignorance, I guess. Even if they mean well, let them scrape their knee, let them fall down, let them get in, some sort of trouble and have to get out of it. I guess it teaches them that life is not as forgiving as you are and as a parent. And the world doesn't care about their feelings or convenience. The world doesn't care about really their future like we do. So, I mean, I don't know how to tell you that it's going to be okay because in the moment, if you can prevent your kid from having some sort of pain, you're probably going to want to do that. But then at the same time, you might want to sit back and think, okay, if I let them hurt now, it could prevent them bigger pain later. Look no further than probably the basement of a bunch of homes in America with 40-year-old children living in their mom's basement, eating Cheetos, playing Xbox, all because mommy stepped in and did everything for them and paid their bills. And so they never had to have a job. They never had to have their heart broken. They never had to scrape their knee or fall on their face. I mean, mommy was always there. So don't be that. And obviously I'm making a dramatic comparison, but We did come in and prevent them from some pain when we could. And I mean, again, that's probably one of the hardest ones to do because I don't know what parent would volunteer to stand by and watch their kids suffer or be heartbroken or fail. But you got to think big picture, and once you come in there and fix everything enough times, then all of a sudden they're entitled and they expect it from everybody. And then when the world says sorry about your luck, then they're really shattered. So you're doing them a favor by letting them figure it out early. Number four, I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I would have encouraged broader scopes of interest. Should have maybe taken a step back on some of the year-round sports and said, let's try something else. Like, I don't know if it's Eagle Scouts. I don't know. Maybe it's wrestling or, self-defense class, or maybe we just go fish a lot, or maybe we learn how to shoot and we go to the range a bunch, but encourage something outside the scope. And it kind of touches a little bit on outside the comfort zone. But even if it's something you guys like doing and it's not outside your comfort zone, but you kind of put it on the shelf because you have year-round commitments to a sport that really isn't going to matter in about 5 years, all because, in the name of we're going to get a scholarship to college for this sport, which rude awakening, dude. It's not as it's not as late, cut and dry and straightforward as you think. And there aren't as many scholarships going around as you think there are. And little Johnny isn't as good as you think or he thinks he is. So anyway, I would encourage broader scopes of interest. Don't get so fixed on this sport is their way out. This sport is their ride. This sport is their solution. This sport is the end all be all for their college. Nobody said they have to go to college. Like, I wish someone would have told me that 10 years ago. Anyway, that's another topic. And we're going to release an episode in a few weeks, probably a month or so, that you'll like, that's along those lines about education, but with one of our guests that we've had on before. Anyway, broader scopes of interest. So I would say part of that is that I don't have a ton of broad scopes of interest. Like, I'm pretty limited. I read, I podcast, I write, I lift weights, I work, and I support my kids in their activities. My wife and I try to have a date night occasionally. We try to go on trips, just she and I. But it's not like we have a ton of hobbies. So I would encourage that, and I would encourage you to get involved in something that you can incorporate your child with you. That knocks out two of these, really, maybe three. You're outside of your comfort zone, you're spending more one-on-one time, and you're broadening your scope of interest. All three of those, if you just maybe create a environment with a hobby that you and your kids and family can try on your own, something you've never done. So that's number four. Number five, let's round this baby out. 5 tips for sidestepping a should show. So you don't have to get down the road with kids that almost all out of the house, empty nester, and you going back and go, I should have done this. I should have done, we should have. I mean, there's just a should storm of should show because of all your shoulding. So we're trying to avoid that. And it's never too late. Even for me, I would say it's never too late. I've got a grandchild now, so I can make up for all that, starting with her, but I, might be able to repair some damage that I think I've done that probably I haven't done, but in my mind with my kids. So this last one is pretty important. And a lot of you, alpha dogs out there, a lot of you manly dudes who have the gun rack in the back of your truck and, pulling a side by side on your family vacations behind the dually, and got your can of Copenhagen in the front seat with you and your spittoon, may not agree with this one. But set your HGH aside for just a second and understand that some of the more eternal seeds you plant are based on how much affection you show and say, and how you live that example with your children's mother, your wife. Identifying love languages is a big deal. Even if you don't make it a broad, formal production with the family, that yours is this, your love language is this. You're kind of like Animal House, where your Alpha Chi Tau Chi name is Flounder. Your pledge name is Pinto. It doesn't have to be that we're giving each other labels, but in your mind, read the book, Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman. Understand it. If you haven't read it already, let's say you've read it, you get it, you got it, you figured it out. You know what yours is, you know what your wife's is. Figure out what your kids are. There's one for children. Understand it and accommodate it. Appeal to it. If it's words of affirmation, if it's quality time, if it's physical touch, figure it out. Some of my kids couldn't care less if I hug them. Some of my kids love gifts. Two of my kids love gifts, and that's how they receive love, and that's how I show it to them in addition to all the other things. But that's their hot button. Figure out what the red button is for your child. But a lot of them, it's words of affection. I don't know any kids that don't like words of affirmation. So I say verbal encouragement, physical, even if they don't like hugs, I give them hugs anyway. Because they're not going to be in a marriage that's healthy or successful or flourishing if they can't figure out how to show physical affection. That's something you need to teach your sons for sure. I think women just automatically are good at that. They're more emotional creatures, but encouragement verbally, physically, showing impartiality and this agape love, this unconditional love to your kids is huge. But you got to learn how to say it and show it. Like it's not just about a hug and a word either. Some of the love is having hard conversations that hold them accountable, that don't give them a pass. They don't get to disrespect your wife. They don't, they need to know where that line is, and you need to show it to them if they can't see it. And you need to have some hard, stern, truthful conversations. That is love. It is not love being complicit and permissive of wrong behavior, of unethical behavior, of dishonest behavior, disrespectful behavior, of half-assed behavior. People that are lazy and show up half-assed, like your kids are called to be great. If they're children of God, which you've raised them to be, they are called to go out and be great at whatever they do and honor the Lord and then give glory to God for their success. That's truth, and that's love. Truth in love. Discipline. God disciplines kids that he loves. He disciplines us because he loves us as his children. We're called to do that as well. Spare the rod, spoil the child. If you allow kids to get away with murder, they will become that as a parent. They will be a crappy spouse. They will be a selfish parent. And they will be super self-centered and entitled their whole life in whatever they do. You can't let them get away with stuff. There's got to be boundaries, got to be lines. Kids, by the way, want boundaries. Regardless of what you think or what they say, kids want boundaries. They want you to show them. They want you to be the authority. You don't have to be a jackhole about it, but they want that authority. They need it because they are going to be that one day. So that's, to me, that's love too, is doing some of the hard things that they don't like. It's not about their reciprocity. You showing them love is not about whether they accept it, receive it, or agree with it. Sometimes the hard times, the hard conversations, the stern hand is love, whether they believe it and like it or not. So those are the 5. And I will say I did good at the last one. It's not that I say I should have done more of that. I did plenty of that last one. I threw that in there because I think that helps you to understand this isn't all just about what I should have done. It's not just all about what you regret not doing, but it's all about like some things that you can still do now. It's never too late to show and verbalize affection. It's never too late to have hard conversations with your kids as they get older, even, and their responsibility grows as a family person, a family man, a husband, a dad. Like those conversations get harder, but they still happen. You're not done being a parent. Now you're more of a consultant because you've lived it, and they want to know because they have no clue, and they're chasing their tail half the time. So they will come back to you and ask, even if they don't seem like they're receiving it now. They will. So hold on to that role. It's not gone. It's never gone. You're never done. 5 tips for sidestepping a should show. Spend more time one-on-one. Get outside your comfort zone. Whatever you guys are used to, whatever your identity is as a family when it comes to extracurricular activities, get outside that. Add something else to that, something that's not comfortable. Number 3, let them fail more often. Stop fixing all their problems. Stop coming to their rescue. Stop swooping in, because eventually they think they're entitled, and life doesn't do that for them because life doesn't care. The world doesn't care. So teach them what it's like to overcome and be resilient when things go south. Number 4, encourage broader scopes of interest. Like I said, get a hobby that you have never done, include them, get the family involved. Everybody does it together, and we go take risks together. That's what I wish we'd have done more of. And then say and show affection. So guys, I mean, I'll tell you again, but let me be the first a month ahead of time to tell you Happy Father's Day. And I hope this helps you see fatherhood a little differently. I hope this strengthens your ability to eliminate some of the should show in your life. With that, be blessed.